will not do, viewers. At a moment when the West is openly tearing up the very rules of international governance it once championed, the global South and the East are expected to close ranks and demonstrate solidarity. But just as that moment arrives, China has chosen provocation over partnership, striking at the very idea of South-South unity. Even as BJP and CCP officials meet in Delhi, invoking dialogue and reset, Beijing has delivered a Shaksgam shocker. First of all, viewers, the government might have reasons to open diplomatic channels with China, to reset the relationship with China. Why the BJP should be laying out the red carpet for China escapes me. The same BJP, viewers, hits the hustings and says that it is rock solid when it comes to not compromising on India's interests. It often points out how the opposition is in league with the CCP, pointing out even an MOU that was signed between the Congress party and the Chinese CCP as evidence. Those are the pictures of not the MOU but meetings. It always takes an exalted position saying that we would never do this, but viewers, for some reason, the BJP is meeting with CCP officials. There you can see in the middle of your screens. Okay, fine, they're doing so because they want to ensure that they understand the mind of the Communist Party of China. One can understand that. This is not a secret meeting, it's happened in the full public domain and the BJP has come out and released it. It's not hiding from anything, so fair. We can give it the benefit of doubt. Some might not be as charitable. But viewers, what about Beijing? The Prime Minister has walked an extra mile. India is a democracy. The Prime Minister's every action is held up to scrutiny. He's walking that extra mile because he knows the importance of South-South cooperation. But Beijing, viewers, belittles the so-called Tianjin spirit. China has revived and hardened territorial claims that directly challenge India's sovereignty. The latest flashpoint is 24 hours old, and it is concerning the Shaksgam Valley that China has claimed as its own. New Delhi has responded firmly, viewers, to this provocation. First, listen to the words that have been exchanged. China stakes claim. Immediately the MEA and even the army chief come out and they rebuke China. Listen to this, viewers.
首先，你提到的领土属于中国领土，中方在自己的领土上开展基础设施建设无可非议。
Shaksgam Valley is Indian territory. We have never recognized the so-called China-Pakistan boundary agreement that happened in 1963. We have consistently maintained that the agreement is illegal and invalid. We do not recognize the so-called China-Pakistan economic corridor either, which passes through Indian territory.
As Shaksgam Valley is concerned, India considers 1963 agreement between Pakistan and China as illegal. Therefore, any activity in Shaksgam Valley is concerned, we do not approve of it. And in this terms, MEA has already issued this statement.
Viewers, you heard the army chief. He's drawn a clear red line warning that any Chinese activity in Shaksgam is illegal. The MEA has reiterated that Shaksgam belongs to India. The Shaksgam Valley, a strategically sensitive region north of Siachen, and I'm going to show it to you on a map, viewers, was illegally ceded by Pakistan to China in 1963. It was not for China to take. And it was not certainly for Pakistan to cede. It's a deal that India has never recognized. because it says that it is an international land grab that is illegal. Shaksgam Valley is Indian territory. The Chinese reject the Indian claim on Shaksgam Valley, just like it rejects the Indian claim on Arunachal or other parts, viewers, of this country. India doesn't recognize the India-Pakistan 63 deal. How can it, viewers? Don't recognize the CPC. It passes via Indian territory. But China brazens it out, saying that it is building infrastructure on its own territory. For those who demand details, here's a breakdown of the Shaksgam tussle. It lies north of Siachen Glacier, and you can see that, viewers, that's the glacier there. And east of the Gilgit-Baltistan, making it strategically sensitive. The Shaksgam Valley was ceded by Pakistan to China in 1963, a move India considers illegal. It's part of the former princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. Its location strengthens China-Pakistan connectivity close to Karakoram Pass in China's Xinjiang region. It's a problem. Proximity to Ladakh and line of actual control creates a potential two-front security challenge for India. Can there be Delhi Dosti when Beijing keeps delivering strategic jolts? Here are some other recent provocations by China that belie Beijing's claims that it is interested in cooperation and regional peace. It claims Arunachal Pradesh as part of South Tibet. China illegally occupies 38,000 square kilometers of Ladakh in Aksai Chin. Exact location of LOC disputed by China in many places. China in control of the Shaksgam Valley, illegally ceded by Pakistan. Its economic corridor passes through POK, which is of course Indian territory. And what does this say, therefore, about China's intentions at a time of global churn? Is China just as morally bankrupt as America is under Trump? Does China truly believe in diplomacy, or is it all about strategic intimidation? Is China undermining global South unity by behaving like a territorial revisionist? Is China legitimizing an illegal land transfer? And why should India trust China's assurances at all? Is China's outlook too hobbled by pettiness for it to emerge as a statesman on the global stage? These are some questions that I'm going to pose tonight, viewers. No other channel is going to pose these questions. You know what they're going to do, viewers? If at all, they're going to get into the petty politics. Photograph here and a photograph there. Vacuous stuff. We're not going to do the vacuous stuff on this channel, viewers. We do what is important for India's strategic interest. And I hope that the Indian government is listening. Because the BJP should be holding, if anything, viewers, the government to account. Not undermining by rolling out the red carpet for China. But that, as I said, is a separate concern. Tonight, I'm going to ask stakeholders from China. It calls itself a mature, evolved, rule-abiding power, but chooses the worst moment to provoke. This is a unilateral provocation. It wasn't as if India was suddenly saying that give back Shaksgam or we are going into Shaksgam. It didn't need to say anything. It could have maintained the status quo. So Mr. Aina Tengan, let me ask you this first question tonight. And this is a question that I posed. Is China's outlook too hobbled by pettiness for it to emerge as a statesman on the global stage? Are you too insecure a power to be someone larger?
Well, I'm an American and I'm a commentator. I'm not, I don't make policy for China, but I think Beijing would be asking the same issue from India. This is something that goes back to 1963 and it's being dredged up now. It seems that India wants to create leverage. That's understandable in these circumstances. But I don't think that this is necessarily the right approach. And I don't think it's the right approach from China's side either. I think there needs to be a coming together, sitting down and talking, not putting these things out into the public arena where, stations like your own are basically fanning the fires as opposed to
fanning the fires. So we are, I'm sorry, you said that you're an American commentator. Where do you live? You live in Beijing?
For the last 21 years, yes.
Yes, you live in Beijing. So basically, you are, in all practical purposes, someone who has his ear to the ground in China. And I don't know,
Yes, I
sir,
do.
what
I'm a
system you
frequent
live in.
commentator on.
Excuse me.
I'm on 50 stations internationally.
Yes, that's great.
including-
Brilliant, sir. And you're with us, and I'm not holding that against you. And I'm only saying
Well,
that
you
yes,
asked
you
me.
might.
You invited me. Here,
Well,
so
one second, Mr.
I don't
Tangen.
understand why you're.
Yeah, no,
What's
there's
the
nothing
problem
personal
with
here.
that?
Don't get me wrong. I was just trying to illustrate a point. You're sitting in China. In China, viewers, the press is not free. It's not a democracy like India. And I'm glad, Mr. Tangen. Sir, I'm not passing judgment.
Last 16 years.
Yes.
You make a lot of generalizations. When's the last time you were in China?
I was China, sir, about 5 months back in Tianjin.
Okay. And
Yeah.
how long did you stay?
I stayed about 5 days, but I never encountered anyone who was willing to ask a question
so
of their
you
own
now,
administration. In fact, I was told.
like now
No, hang on, sir. Let me give you.
understand
No,
China
one second, Mr.
completely,
Tiangen,
right?
please. I'm not here to lie. I don't lie. It's all on record. I was
Well,
told,
I'm
in
not saying
fact,
you did.
I was told, in fact, by the Chinese media that they like to hear good things from Indian journalists about the SCO spirit. So we were all swept up in that SCO spirit. You and I spoke about it, I remember. We had some discussions at that time. And you were very, very positive about China's reset. And you said this time there is a very important need to show solidarity. So I'm only asking, sir, please indulge me, I'm only asking, why do you believe China chose this moment when we need to present a unified face, even under the rubrics of BRICS? Logo was released today by India. Each of the petals of the logo of the BRICS flower is dedicated to one of the permanent members of the alliance. And I'm asking you, sir, why would it rake up Shaksgam out of nowhere, Mr. Tiangen? Out of nowhere.
Okay, so there are 5 members of BRICS, not 4. And
I said 5, sir.
Yeah, and the issue here is that India, isn't participating in the BRICS, safety of the seas exercise that are going on. Its statement was rather mild compared to the treatment that it's been getting from the United States. It didn't call out the U.S. It simply said, "Oh, we'll work on some things." Just very, very, very mild, the statement that was given by Shaksgam. So, I mean, there are definitely differences of opinion. I'm saying that China does not believe it owes India anything. Obviously, India believes that China owes it something. So I think it's best when you're sitting down at a negotiating table for both sides to say, what are the core interests that you want and how do we achieve them? And the idea that somehow India is going to get China to give up all of these lands and give nothing in return, and that this is the only right and just thing, is a little bit immature.
Okay. Mr. Tangen, look, I know that you might have some compulsion sitting in Beijing. It's not easy, it's not free. But let me tell you, sir, all of these particular issues.
Why would you say something so outrageous? You're sitting in India. You're not
all
free.
Of these,
why would you say something so insulting?
Okay.
You know what? I'm not going to sit here and be insulted.
Okay, I'll take it back. I'll take it back. I'll take it back, sir. I'll appease. I'll take it back. But let me ask you a question.
You say that I'm
Fair
not
enough. I'll take it back. But, sir, let me ask you a question. Is there not a separate boundary dispute resolution mechanism that is working in parallel to address these issues? Yes or no? Is there one? If it is one, these issues are being looked and negotiated.
There is one set of procedures that is proceeding along the lines of deciding not where the boundaries are, but simply how to, on both sides, how they should be approaching them. There has been nothing done in terms of settling the boundaries. Beijing has said that it wants to do that, but it doesn't know exactly what India wants, because India says all the time, "We're right. You got to give us back everything. We're not going to give you anything." In fact, we think that Tibet should be independent or given to India or something like this. I mean, it doesn't make any sense from their side, so they don't take it as serious.
Okay.
So yes, every time they hear something from India, they kind of punch back. I would hope that both sides would sit down and say, what are the core interests and how do we solve them?
Okay. The point is, sir, that both sides are sitting down. It is a negotiation. This is not going to change overnight.
Where is
Sir,
this
let me finish.
negotiation?
You see, you don't let
Where
me
is it?
finish. You're not allowing me to
Where is
make
the
my
negotiation?
point. You're cutting me off. Let me at least finish, sir. Please, let's have a dialogue here. Let's not have an adversarial slugfest. I'm not here to, in any way, try to win a debate. I'm only trying to put out some facts. You said it was immature of India to take a position. My point is, sir, that there is a dispute resolution mechanism. Whether it is going forward or backwards is not the concern. That is the right forum. The forum to express, and India has not come out and ever made a unsubstantiated claim outside of those dispute resolution mechanisms. Can you show me a statement? No, sir.
Yes,
You said that
we've
India is
discussed it,
guarded
and-
when it comes to criticizing the United States. Our foreign affairs minister has been going from world capital to the next world capital, making comments, pointing out the hypocrisy of the United States. That's saying a lot. Anyhow, I don't want to belabor the point. The fact is, viewers, a mature democracy would negotiate through the right conduit. Mr. Tangen has said that the Chinese need to be also a little more accepting. I feel that the Chinese shut their mouth off when they did not need to. Is that a reasonable proposition to put forth on this debate, viewers? Let's widen the discussion. Let me quickly bring in Mr. Tangen on that point. Is it reasonable to say that perhaps China could have chosen discretion? It's an unprovoked remark. It is a comment that is made. It could have held back and said, look, we're looking at these issues. There are mechanisms, there are talks going on at the right levels with the representatives. They will address this. Simple as that. I'm only asking that question.
Okay, so this is not an isolated issue. There are a number of issues that are here. And there's been back and forth, tit for tat, going back between China and India over a long time. If you just want to say, oh, in this instance, China was wrong, well, they'll go back in the history and they say, well, what about the statements that were made by India about Tibet? So, I mean, both sides, I don't like tit for tat. It doesn't accomplish anything. So what I'm saying is that I wish there were real negotiations and that both sides were sitting down and determining what their strategic long-term interests were and how to solve them.
Okay.
And the border issue, as long as that it's an open sore between these two countries, and it needs to be solved.
Okay. The only difference here, viewers, is that there was a fresh start after a 4-year hiatus of diplomatic engagement. So it's a fresh start that's being made. No one is going back in time. If a fresh start is being made, Gaurav Arya, Major Arya, then perhaps both sides, specifically China in this instance, and I'm only talking about this instance because this follows on the back of what has happened just a month before Tianjin and the resolutions in Tianjin to move the needle forward along a responsible line through a structured process. What was the need for China to provoke suddenly out of the blue? Major.
Thank you very much for having me, Rahul. This is not new. I think we put too much of stock in, we had a diplomatic meeting with China and there was this bilateral and there was this multilateral forum and all of that. It doesn't matter to China. We signed 5 agreements with China regarding the line of actual control and they still came right bang on the line of actual control in Galwan and people lost their lives, right? This has been happening for a long time. Now, the gentleman before me said that India wants Tibet to be a part of India. That's not true. That's not true at all. Tibet was never part of India. We don't want Tibet to be a part of India. Tibet should be an independent nation, and that's all right. But here we're talking about China. The problem is India has only one land dispute. One land dispute. And that is the Jammu and Kashmir issue, which, Pakistan occupied Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. Shaksgam Valley, approximately 5,000 square kilometers, gifted by Pakistan to China in 1963. That is the set of the land dispute that we have. We don't have land disputes. Look at China. China has a land dispute with almost all its neighbors. It has a land dispute with Russia because they won the Vladivostok port. They have a dispute with Mongolia. They have a dispute with Kyrgyzstan. They have a dispute with Kazakhstan, with Malaysia, with the Philippines. There is a certain history, with China. Forget about Arunachal and calling Arunachal South Tibet. That's one part of it. They have a dispute with almost everybody. In fact, for China to have a dispute, a border dispute, you don't have to border China. You can be two countries removed and China will still have a dispute with you. That's just how it is with China. So there is nothing new. And I just like to tell you, nobody cares. I mean, look at what Trump did in Venezuela. Similarly, look at what China has done. There was no logic for China to have come bang on the line of actual control in Galwan. There was no logic. But they did. They tore 5 agreements signed by heads of state, Rahul, let me remind you. Signed by heads of state. The Prime Minister of India, the President of President of China, they sign, and the Chinese tear it up, throw it in the waste paper basket and say, we are going to the line of actual control and we want this territory now. Shaksgam Valley is like this. If you see, it's like a knuckle, right? It's like a knuckle. The problem with Shaksgam is that it borders both the line of control and it borders the line of actual control. And there is the AGPL, which is the Siachen Glacier, which is right. This hand of mine, it denotes the Siachen Glacier, and this is the Shaksgam Valley like that. Now, they've started building a road there. They've completed the road. Why? Because that is the area by which they can look into India and they can control territory. And this is not about the wrong time or the right time. And why did China have to make a comment? China has been doing it throughout. It's been doing it with a lot of countries. It's been buying land on the border with Russia, ingressing into Russia, and giving it an, I don't know what the English word is, but in Hindi we call it adhiya or patta.
Okay. So
they have done contract farming on Russian land. I mean, it's just like that with China.
Andrew Leung, let me bring you into this. Is China just as morally bankrupt as America is under Trump? Simple question to you, sir.
Well, I completely do not agree with your description. I mean, this is totally one-sided and loaded question. But coming back to what's happening now, I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, the border disputes, as you pointed out, and then both leaders have already agreed recently to recalibrate the relationship, particularly at a time when the whole world order is upended by what is, in your words, one of the, or you always refer to democracy, the world's largest nation, the biggest economy is a democracy. But look at what the so-called the leader of the democratic world is doing. As far as democracy is concerned. So there's continuing rhetoric about democracy as if is this the only game in town is totally misguided. If you look at the legitimacy, you look at the recent research done by the Harvard Kennedy School, the Ash Center report out a couple of years ago. You look at what the Edelman Trust Barometer based in New York is finding. You look at what the Ipsos Center in Paris is finding.
Yeah.
The legitimacy is not just a process of elections. It is the outcome of the people, whatever regime that is governing the country. And you look at the degree of support of whatever country to support the government. On that basis, on the basis of outcome, I think China's regime is perhaps the most legitimate in the world in terms of support of their people. And that's not according to Beijing, it's according to Harvard Kennedy School, according to Edelman Trust Barometer based in New York. So let's forget about this talk about democracy and autocracy as if anything coming out of China is legitimate. This is nonsense. Okay. Coming back to this kind of conflict. I've been on your channel and other Indian channels for decades. And I've been on worse scenarios compared with present. What has caused this kind of conflict? Because the line of actual control by definition is never clear. And there's a source of conflict. And then both leaders have wisely scaled down the rhetoric.
Yes.
But what's happening now? That's important. What's happening now is the people on the ground along the border, they are the military. And the soldiers, of course, have got to defend. They've got no authority to deviate from their duty to defend what they perceive as their territory. And that is a recipe for conflict. And then this dispute resolution is there to address problems like that. But what happened now is that sometimes things get out of control on the ground, and then it's been elevated to the media. And what do you expect that the ministry's spokesman is trying to say? No, well, that's what's happening.
Okay, but Mr. Leung, here, the spokesperson has taken a position, Dr. Ranganathan. The spokesperson has taken a position Obviously, that's a political pulpit, and she, in this particular case, might have been advised to take a position, to provoke, to needle. India has not talked about the land dispute in a while. We have left all of this to be addressed by this very important dispute resolution mechanism, which is where this matter should be looked at. And therefore, I ask sometimes, what does this say about China's intentions at a time of global churn, when what Trump wants to see is a divided world confronting him, not a unified world? What is he most scared of today? BRICS and de-dollarization. And if China doesn't take people along, then there's going to be a problem. We are going to give Trump open space, Dr. Ranganathan, open space.
Yes, indeed. And the your allusion to Liberation, which Hitler wanted open space, is not lost when you talk of Trump and open space. No, but good evening, Rahul, and good evening to my fellow panelists. First of all, with due respect to the Chinese expert whom I heard your first panelist, I don't know why he got so worked up on what you said. He said he's been staying in China for, I think, a decade and a half. And you said, well, China is not a democracy and India is. Now, there's an acid test of, his speaking the truth while staying in Beijing. Does he, as he claims that he is being very honest and upright about whatever views that there are, and China doesn't stop people from saying what they do, does he believe, like his American government believes, that China has currently interned 1.5 million Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps and is forcibly sterilizing them? Does he believe so?
Are you asking me? That's nonsense, and you know it. The issue is he didn't ask me whether
he doesn't believe
I was
his
here
own
for
US
21
government.
years. I told you that.
Now, thank you.
So
Thank you. I just
obviously
wanted an
didn't
acid
listen.
test. Now, please.
He asked me whether I could speak
interrupt.
freely, and I said I could.
Okay, he
you.
says he can
I just
speak
wanted
freely. Let's take him at face value. That's fine. He might, look, he believes he can.
Well, if
Yes.
you don't think I'm speaking freely, why do you have me here? That's such quite an insult.
That's what I'm saying.
I should ask you,
we're not
Raul, have you
disputing.
stopped beating your wife?
We
Have
are
you
not
stopped beating
disputing.
your wife?
We're not disputing. We are not
Silly
disputing.
questions like
We're
this.
not disputing. We're not disputing anything that you're saying, sir. We're taking it at face value.
Why did you say
said,
that I couldn't possibly speak
I'll
the
tell
truth?
you why.
Because
I'll tell you why.
I'm living in China.
I'll tell you why, sir. Because my own experience.
You said you took it back.
My
so I
own
assume that
experience.
you
No, I
meant
didn't
it.
take. I took the fact back.
Your experience of 5 days?
Well, sir, 5 days sometimes is good enough in a testing situation, right?
So if I spend 5 days in India, I'll know it very, very well.
Please
right?
come, sir. Please come. And you can say anything you want in India. Come, please. I invite you myself. We can have a nice conclave here. India,
I've been
China
invited by the
dialogue.
last 6 ambassadors. I don't need to be invited by you.
Okay. Anyhow, sir, it doesn't matter. Let's not get worked out.
He's getting upset.
Yeah, he's getting upset. Let's not get upset. It's okay.
No,
It's okay.
look, your previous guest made an outright lie that there's 1.5 million people being held in concentration
That's
camps
what
and
your
being
government
sterilized.
says.
in Xinjiang.
But the American government says that.
American
That
government has
is
said it 7
propaganda
times.
that's being put forth by the U.S.
Okay, it's propaganda by the US, doctor. He's taken a position. He contradicts his government. That's fine.
I've
It's
been
okay.
there. Have you been there, doctor?
Have you
As
been?
I said,
No, you haven't.
As I said, please don't interrupt me. I didn't, sir. Thank you. As I said, the acid test was whether you believe your own country and that country's government in what it claims China is doing. You clearly don't. So let's move on. It's fine. It's QAD.
Why would you bring up something so ridiculous? We're talking about a border dispute.
Because
Sir,
you are going after
Are you
Rahul.
trying to steer the
Mr.
conversation?
Tangen, these are
in a
his
negative way?
views. He's free to express them. No one asked you,
Absolutely.
and no one
but why?
said that your views
What's
are.
the point?
No
What's
one
the
said
point?
that your
Did I
views are
say I don't
ridiculous.
respect your
No one
views?
has stood in judgment of your views. We're only questioning.
If I can't defend my views, I shouldn't be here.
But you can't deny somebody else their views, right? I mean, yes, you have
No,
your
he
views.
didn't express a view. He asked a question.
Well, you
Do
gave an
believe
answer.
that the United
You
States-
gave an
that's not
answer,
a
so
view,
you
that's
moved
a
on.
question.
I'm fine by your remarks. I'm not
exactly.
refuting your remarks, sir.
Then why did you bring it up? What does it have to do with
Because
the
a
border
question can be
explain it now?
asked. A question can be
dispute?
asked. It's a free
Yes,
world.
I could ask him if he stopped beating his wife, but it doesn't have anything to do with the border dispute.
Let's
Okay.
not
Let
get
him finish.
agitated
Let
and
him
draw
finish,
false
doctor.
equivalences just because you're rhetoric. I brought up the question because you were
No, I'm not rhetoric at all.
antagonistic towards Rahul, saying that Rahul, you are lying when you say that my views are not absolutely unbiased. And the fact of the matter is, I'm staying in China, which is, yes, not a dictatorship, it's not a democracy. That was the context in which I brought this question as a testing ground. Let's move on. You've answered it. I respect your question. Answer. Now, Rahul, let me get back to this very quickly. Look, the China strategist is right, and so is Gaurav, who put across his points brilliantly. The fact of the matter is that LAC, India has a different perception going to as much as 1,448 kilometers. Now, that is massive when you're talking about two countries fighting over what is the exact sense of the border. You have a situation where even in this valley, in fact, as late as 2017, China was making 70 kilometers of border infrastructure roads. China has been making infrastructure in the areas that we have disputes over it. Now,
Yes.
the fact of the matter is that Pakistan gave away this territory, as Gaurav absolutely rightly put it. But even before Pakistan did, China had claims over it. Like we have claims over a lot of territories that comes under differing perception. The point I'm trying to make is that has China, kind of elicited a response which is much warmer than what we have given it in the last 5 years? And I would dare say this, it might be controversial, but the fact of the matter is India right now is stuck between the devil and the deep blue sea, the devil being Trump. The fact of the matter is we need to team up in order to kind of tackle the kind of inanities and silliness that Trump comes up every day. Just 2 days ago, he said he's going to slap 500% tariffs. Just today, he says anybody who is having any economic relations with Iran, and both China and India are, he's going to he's already slapped 25% additional tariffs on it. So, India has been slapped with, I would say, cumulative 75% tariffs. We've got to combat that. China has got to combat it. China is in a much powerful position than India is, because China did what we could not. That was reciprocative tariffs. But the fact of the matter is China also is going to suffer, and China knows it. It pays now in a Trumpian, not post-Trumpian world, but in Trumpian world to get together. So you are absolutely right. I agree with you.
Yeah, exactly. And I just feel that the time has come when we need to rise above pettiness. I am saying viewers, we. And I don't think anyone can have a disagreement about that. So let's, on a spirit of at least agreeing on the basic principle that there needs to be restraint, that we need to play this carefully, say bye-bye to our guests from China and, of course, Major Arya. Thank you very much. Thank you for being patient. Let's move on, viewers, because this is a very important story that we're going to look at. And it's a story that you interact with on a daily basis. Viewers, they spoke up a few weeks ago, and this time the government listened. The Modi government has struck down the 10-minute delivery deadline, offering long overdue relief to nearly 7.7 million gig workers across India. Just weeks ago, these workers had gone on strike, pleading for safer conditions and humane timelines. Instead of being heard, they were mocked, vilified, and shamed, portrayed as ungrateful by a system that profits from their desperation. Most disturbing of all, even platform bosses dismiss them as troublemakers, not workers asking for dignity. And I'm talking about 7.7 million gig workers, projected to be 23.5 million in the next 5 years, less than 5 years. Gig workers are around 6.7% of non-agricultural workforce. They're part of India's fast expanding digital economy. The brazen audacity of the owners of delivery platforms was a shocking reminder that profit corrupts and absolute profit corrupts absolutely. By any calculation, delivery work is primarily a means of desperate survival, a dead-end trap with no scope for career progression or skill development relevant to the formal economy. This is not a fringe workforce. Gig workers form the invisible spine of India's digital economy. Millions of young men riding against time, traffic, sometimes paying with their lives and fatigue just to survive. And this workforce is only growing. What the glossy apps don't show is the human cost behind every instant delivery. For many riders, this is not flexibility, it is exhaustion without an exit. Sometimes those long hours lead to mistakes. Or viewers, expose these people to dangers, no rest days, endless kilometers on dangerous roads. This is not choice, this is compulsion. 40% of workers do not take weekly offs. 36.8% workers drive over 150 to 200 kilometers per day. Close to 60% drivers work for over 12 hours a day. Almost 1/4 of drivers work between 14 to 16 hours a day. No algorithm can justify this. The dark statistics by themselves are a statement. They are unjustifiable. But as I said, the owners of these platforms disregarded the human condition. They listed their defense in the guise of viewers' spreadsheets that were served cold, saying earnings per hour were up 10%. Can you imagine pointing to a modest rise in hourly earnings as if a few extra rupees could compensate for risk, injury and burnout? Is profit proof of fairness? This is what Zomato delivery partners were saying, that they earn now 10% more than they did last year. These platforms and their owners bragged about the flexibility their companies offered. They say partners choose when and where to work, can add or remove work areas anytime. No participation is required beyond chosen gig, not designed for full-time benefits, PF, guaranteed salary. But flexibility without security is not empowerment. They talked about the light workload, average work, they said 38 days per year, average hours 7 hours per day. Only 2.3% worked more than 250 days. No assigned shifts or areas. But what the platform owners forgot was that over half the gig riders quit every week, replaced by new entrants. High churn hides high exploitation. When people keep leaving, averages begin to lie. So the statistics make little sense. They even suggested that gig workers are accident proof, as they barely travel 2 kilometers, an average speed of 16 kilometers an hour to deliver orders. Viewers, they kept pointing to statistics. Tell that to the injured riders in hospital. Tell that to families waiting at home. Even today, there is a group of people who are upset with the government for weighing in, for minding private business and not its own business. But this is a rare moment of justice for those who keep India moving, one delivery, viewers, at a time, one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, one house at a time. So viewers, let's open this up. Is this justice delivered? And that too, timely justice delivered. Dr. Ranganathan, what do you believe?
Rahul, very quickly, I have 3 points to make. Number one, I am against communism. This is not a question or a debate about capitalism and communism and how things should run in the country. Having said that, I am a believer in Darwinian evolution and therefore competition and therefore no monopoly and therefore capitalism. And I believe that capitalism must run on regulation, which is moral, ethical, and creates a wonderful balance between the employee, the employer, and the consumer. So I am for regulating capitalism. That is the only way you would have a well-structured business in economic progress. Now, in this state, I am for regulation. Government must come in from time to time and bring in moral and ethical regulation. Now, in this case, talking specifically of the government being a nanny state, in my opinion, and removing the 10-minute thing. Now, as I said, I am for governments bringing in regulations, but the point is regulations must be brought in after having thought about it rationally, logically, based on scientific evidence, which unfortunately this government or any other Indian government is loath to do. Let me give you 2 previous examples. You had the lockdown being imposed at the drop of a hat without any scientific evidence most times to prove it. That was jeopardizing millions of businesses and businessmen and reducing them to penury in India. In America, that sort of a thing brought in legal and tort cases. Number 2, you have a situation where in India, 1 million people die of cigarette use every year. You have a situation where there are 0 deaths of e-cigarettes. What does the government do? the government bans e-cigarettes. This is how they plan regulation. Now, in this case, there is no peer-reviewed, concrete scientific evidence that having 10-minute delivery decreases safety and increases accidents. There isn't. Now, a logical and rational person would have said, is there an evidence like that? If there is, let me increase it before, after talking to a lot of players, employees, employers, maybe we can make it 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. To do it randomly without any scientific basis is what I'm against. So I'm not against regulation, because if somebody's life or physical nature is being affected, yes, governments must regulate, but there should be no hypocrisy, no double standards, and most of all, it should be rational and based on scientific evidence, which in this case, it isn't.
Okay, Mr. Yadav, he's not against regulation, but he says that this is random nannying in a way. It's the work of a nanny state. How do you respond to that?
Thank you, sir, for inviting me. I can say I have gone through the statement published in on print media, where it was showing that Ministry of Labour has requested to the aggregators, to the management, to stop this 10 minutes delivery. Again, we have just hit that point, the request, because in absence of the rules, in absence of the recognition of these platform workers as a worker, one side ministry is intervening. We welcome, no doubt of that, we welcome. But the ministry is intervening into this area, but their infrastructure, their existing platforms like labor office, these people are objecting not to consider, not to take any complaint over there. So which regulation he is talking about? There are no such regulation. The people are working more than 14 hours. The people are getting their incentive reduced from 50 rupees to 6 rupees. The people are meeting with the accident to just fulfill the minimum requirement of 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Whether today's statement, which is published in so many newspapers, are mandatory to all, or whether it was just a request from the Ministry of Labour, Sri Mansukh Mandviya ji. So I am totally disagree from the submission of Sri Anand ji, because there are no such regulation. In the name of partner, the exploitation of these gig workers are on peak. And as you have mentioned, the numbers are increasing day by day, failing to get the minimum rights of theirs, including their working hours, their rest period, and now, the social security part are coming.
Okay, so Rajat Sethi, where do you come in on this? And I'll bring in Dilip Shenoy right after that. Yes.
Well, I think given the numbers that you're pointing out, it is 2.5 crore workers that we are looking at, which, whether we like it or not, is an important constituent. And government will have to ensure that as an aggregate, the rights are protected, while ensuring that some soft regulations can be put in place so that, you don't see rash accidents happening on the roads. While I agree that, it's a road problem, it's a traffic problem, not per se a Zomato or a Blinkit problem. But you also need to understand that there are enough anecdotes around us which at least would alarm the people in the government that the government isn't stepping in at the right time, and they allowed this rat race to keep reducing the time windows on deliveries go unabated. I think government is trying to handle it. And by the way, all these regulations that we're talking about have been going on the deliberations have been going on for the past 2 years. By the way, which, we are not aware of it because most of it doesn't happen in public domain. There have been universities, law universities, which have been engaging with the government on one side, the gig workers union on the other side, and with these companies on the third side. So I'm not saying that the government in a knee-jerk way came about these regulations. There were a lot of thinking, a lot of consultation exercises which were done, and this is how they believed that, this rash 10-minute sort of aggressive timelines that you put onto the workers is impacting the health and the stress level of these workers, on top of, their other sort of anxieties and the stress which the job and the non-permanency of the job brings about. So I think government is trying to ensure that while the sector thrives, there should not be added stress on these workers.
There should be no exploitation.
Yes.
Let's just call it what it is. There should be no exploitation. One second, doctor. I just want to bring in Mr. Shenoy. Mr. Shenoy, yes, there should be no exploitation. The government has regulated. It has used a soft stick. It is not said that we are shutting these various platforms down. This is not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's just a small tweak. That's all. I think we can live with 20 minutes. We can live with 30 minutes, especially when it comes at the cost, that 10-minute hurry comes at the cost of perhaps endangering someone's lives. I don't think it's being too unreasonable.
No, Rahul, I think you're absolutely right. And I think whereas we've had Anand Ranganathan make a point of view and Rajat also make another point of view. But I think there are three distinct issues here. One is the delivery time. You can solve the delivery time by having more dark stores. You can actually do, the earliest just-in-time manufacturing was done in Ludhiana and Hero Cycles using a bullock cart. So it's not necessarily that you got to, you got to have rash driving, speeds, etc. If you want to keep for time, you can do a different distributed architecture of allowing delivery within a specified time. But the challenge here is a combination of three things. One is the pressure on people to deliver, even if it's a local Amazon delivery or anybody who's delivering on a daily basis, or even your speed post guy who comes from the post office. So then there's a huge urgency to deliver. The second is the traffic conditions and traffic rules and regulations, which Rajat referred to, and that also needs to be kind of addressed. And the third one is a little disconcerting because you also mentioned it in your opening statement, is the long hours and no mandatory breaks, etc. But if you take one of the, taxi or cab aggregators, unfortunately, for some other reason they went out of business, but they ensured that their drivers had a particular day off. They actually earned substantially more and they regulated hours and showed a profitable model. So I think the onus is on the employers and the real companies to ensure that they create conditions which don't put pressures on their workforce and make it a kind of, instill road safety, road driving habits, right, so that, it actually happens in a very structured and safe manner.
My problem, doctor, very quickly, I'll come out to you, is that this whole business of sort of pointing to a modest rise in hourly earnings as a few extra sort of pennies, rupees would compensate for risk, injury and burnout. I mean, is proof profit of fairness? I know that you're not a communist, neither am I. But, absolute profit corrupts absolutely.
No, absolutely. But, very quickly, 3 points, Rahul. First of all, I do agree with you when you say we can live with 20 minutes and 30 minutes. I am from a generation, and I dare say even you are, that I've
Why do you have to keep bringing this up? You don't have to tell the whole world how old I am. Yes, but nonetheless.
I've journeyed from Delhi to Trivandrum by train, took 3 days. Can you imagine today me doing that? It takes 2.5 hours and I can't spend a minute more than that. I would be itching.
I waited for DTC buses for about an hour and found out that they wouldn't show up.
So, basically societies evolve and, sooner or later you come down to what is called the energy minimum. And right now, you leave it to a humane way of dealing with the employees as well as the employers. Now, I dare say, I don't mean to sound patronizing at all, but governments, there's one thing they must not do. And they always do. They must not go by anecdotal evidence. This is what they were doing during the lockdown. This is what they are doing right now. As I said, I repeat, there is no as yet peer-reviewed studies, scientific studies that shows that there are, because of the 10-minute delivery, there are rash driving more than the other test control driving, and there are more accidents. Till such time there is. We can go by anecdotal evidence. Say, अरे भाई मेरे ड्राइवर की टक्कर लगे, मेरा वो बैन कर दो, ये बैन कर दो, वो चलता रहेगा.
It's only about
scientific and that is not objective.
I agree, but it's only about increasing the risks. And certainly by condensing timelines, you increase the propensity of an accident happening because the risk obviously multiplies because people start taking what we call shortcuts. Sometimes viewers' lived experience can make up for a lot of lack of data. And I think the government has said in its statement that they bowed to the lived experience. They listened. That's also sometimes a virtue, viewers, especially governments that listen. Has the government struck the right balance? This debate might continue, viewers. I'm not saying, not weighing in either which side, but I think we've heard the arguments. Maybe we can also do a little bit. The next time someone comes to deliver, let's treat them well. Let's perhaps even tip them. Maybe if you did tip them, we wouldn't have come to this pass. Viewers, let's move on a little bit, because we're going to be entering political season. Some people say we're already in political season, and ahead of every election, the Congress seems gripped by a familiar delusion that a title can substitute for leadership qualities. In Bihar, Rahul Gandhi was projected as Jan Nayak, but it was a mantle that was rejected by the voter in Bihar. The Congress ended up with its worst tally. Now, on the eve of the Tamil Nadu elections, he has been crowned Thalaiva, and you can see those advertisements that have been released on the right, where he is shown as this leader. The Congress is entitled to bestow any title upon its scion, but Thalaiva is a word heavy with cultural, political and cinematic meaning in the state. The problem isn't symbolism. I think it comes down to a degree of credibility. Grand monikers demand mass connect, authority and delivery. The Jan Nayak that we knew of Bihar, the original Jan Nayak, was a grassroots level individual who had mass following. This is where Rahul Gandhi fails to live up to the persona. Repeatedly bestowing titles, Rahul Gandhi struggles to live up to only exposes Congress's desperation and widens the gap between image building and political reality. Let's open this up. Let's ask some basic questions, because Rahul Gandhi's own record, and we're going to show you examples of that, belie these monikers. Am I right, Mr. Jain, in saying so?
Absolutely not, Rahul. When you say all of this, you forget that Rahul Gandhi is the unchallenged leader of the Congress party, which gets over 21% vote share in the country, and gets a significant vote share and seats, whether in the parliament election or the assembly elections in Tamil Nadu. Now, it is perfectly well within the right of the party's leaders and workers to coin their leader as by whichever title they like, whether it is Jan Nayak, Thalaiva, leader, boss, Neta Pratipaksh. I don't really see what the problem of the BJP or anybody is in this.
Okay, you see, viewers, let me take an example, and I want to bring in Doctor. Mr. Jain said Rahul Gandhi is the unchallenged leader of the Congress party, and the party is entitled to bestow any moniker upon him. So is Trump, viewers. He's the unchallenged leader of the Republican Party of America, but can anyone call him a Jan Nayak? What does Jan Nayak mean?
Republicans are free to call him Jan Nayak.
Please, one second. What does the term Jan Nayak mean, viewers? Someone who serves justice. Justice giver. The best way to test this, viewers, if people believe this, is looking at election results.
Absolutely.
Dr. Ranganathan, just look at the election results. What do the election results tell you? Jan Nayak means somebody who's leading the people. Look at the attendance record of Rahul Gandhi in Parliament, where you supposedly lead the people and ask their questions. There is enough data. In the last debate, you said there was a saw feet of data. Here, there is so much data that the moniker begins to look as if it is forced.
May I point out the factual inaccuracy in the visual that's playing?
Just one second. Let me just bring out
95
Dr.
is absolutely a wrong figure.
Okay. Let me just bring out Dr. Ranganathan. Yes. Yeah.
Does Nikhil mean to say it should be 97? I mean, we stand corrected.
Come on. It is 30. Okay, it is actually 16.
16?
I can tell you
Rahul, I'll send you the file. I'll send you the file that I prepared on this.
Okay, sir. Right. Can you name me one state where the Congress has been led to a repeat victory under Rahul Gandhi, where it has been ruling incumbent and it has returned to power?
Rahul, you can't keep on shifting the goalposts.
I'm asking you a simple question. There have been viewers, 3 cycles of elections. 1 second. There have been 3 cycles of elections. I'm just taking one state. Do the math. 3 cycles of elections in the last 15 years. He said 16 losses only. 1-6. 1-6. Now, you just do the math. One state, he couldn't bring them back to power. One state. Do the math, viewers.
Rahul,
in just one state, the math comes to 9, cutting across Lok Sabha, Vidhan Sabha. Okay, no, forget it. Just 1 second. Let doctor come in. It's okay, sir. Let's say it's half, 50. Okay, we'll give you 50-50, sir. Chalo. Yes, doctor.
But I think to give Nikhil his due, I mean, he has to say this. Of course, 16 is completely wrong, but maybe the truth is closer to about 80, 85, not 95, right? Given. All right, exceeded. Look, three things here. Number one, as far as Nikhil says, yes, he and his party are within rights to bestow any moniker they feel on Rahul Gandhi. But then I asked them, there was a Congress leader, very prominent Congress leader, who bestowed the moniker of Pappu, and this is real news. The next day, the party sacked him. So it's not just that any moniker can be bestowed, and he was saying it in glowing terms कि वो हमारे पप्पू हैं, उसको sack कर दिया. So that is also unjust and draconian and undemocratic. Now, Rahul, sorry, I meant Rahul Shiv Shankar. Look, things can go very easy for Rahul Gandhi. All he has to do is to follow on the principles that he flaunts that, red empty book by, which is, by the way, I'm convinced there is nothing inside there, because had there been something inside there, the real constitution, he would have acted differently. I'll give you one example. The anonymous electoral bonds. Rahul Gandhi was shouting from the rooftops that it is independent India's biggest financial scam. He is right. The Supreme Court agreed with it. But then there's just minor issue. Why did Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party, despite saying it is the biggest scam since 1947, accept 1600 crore rupees from the same conduit? Why? This is the problem, and that is why it is almost impossible to see Rahul Gandhi as a leader. I'll give you another quick example on corruption itself. When Rahul Gandhi says he's going to wipe out corruption in this country and choose Rahul Gandhi and the Congress, it was the BJP that was convicted of violating FCRA guidelines and accepting donation money from a mining company. It carried a conviction of 5 years. Now, any other political party would have hit the streets saying, resign, Prime Minister. Did Rahul Gandhi do any of that? No. In fact, he sided with the BJP. He amended the FCRA rules going back to the emergency era so that the conviction of BJP was rendered toothless. Why would he do that? These are the two questions which people can see, and they can see through Rahul Gandhi. It's not about his personality. He's probably a nice guy. I like him. He's my batchmate, for heaven's sake. But the fact of the matter is, he goes on and does things that are completely opposite of what he says things should be done. That is the problem, not Rahul Gandhi.
Well, viewers, that's why sometimes...
Can I get 10 seconds?
1 second. The man doesn't fit the brand.
Yes.
And that's why whether it is 95 or 85 or 16 or 18 or whatever it is, the fact is, viewers, we've done our math. It's absolutely 95. Mr. Jain can come out and say whatever he wants to. 16 losses.
I'll send you the file. I'll say, no, okay. 16, I was wrong. Just give me 10 seconds.
Viewers, he was wrong. He was wrong because he quickly Googled and he realized that he was only talking about 2024 and 2025. 2 साल का record उन्होंने निकाल दिया.
Just give me
अब
10
मैंने बोला, viewers, 10 years. 10 years record. Had that come out, viewers, we would have all had a palpitation. Anyhow, I'll leave it at this. I've run out of time.
Just 10 seconds.
I've run out of time, sir. Please, sir, I've run out of time. Palki Sharma Upadhyay is waiting on the other side, and so are viewers. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Viewers, at a moment when the West is openly tearing up the very rules of international governance it once championed, the global South and the East are expected to close ranks and demonstrate solidarity. But just as that moment arrives, China has chosen provocation over partnership, striking at the very idea of South-South unity. Even as BJP and CCP officials meet in Delhi, invoking dialogue and reset, Beijing has delivered a Shaksgam shocker. First of all, viewers, the government might have reasons to open diplomatic channels with China, to reset the relationship with China. Why the BJP should be laying out the red carpet for China escapes me. The same BJP viewers hits the hustings and says that it is rock solid when it comes to not compromising on India's interests. It often points out how the opposition is in league with the CCP, pointing out even an MOU that was signed between the Congress party and the Chinese CCP as evidence. Those are the pictures of not the MOU but meetings. It always takes an exalted position saying that we would never do this, but viewers, for some reason, the BJP is meeting with CCP officials. There you can see in the middle of your screens. Okay, fine, they're doing so because they want to ensure that they understand the mind of the Communist Party of China. One can understand that. This is not a secret meeting, it's happened in the full public domain and the BJP has come out and released it. It's not hiding from anything, so fair. We can give it the benefit of doubt. Some might not be as charitable. But viewers, what about Beijing? The Prime Minister has walked an extra mile. India is a democracy. The Prime Minister's every action is held up to scrutiny. He's walking that extra mile because he knows the importance of South-South cooperation. But Beijing, viewers, belittles the so-called Tianjin spirit. China has revived and hardened territorial claims that directly challenge India's sovereignty. The latest flashpoint is 24 hours old, and it is concerning the Shaksgam Valley that China has claimed as its own. New Delhi has responded firmly, viewers, to this provocation. First, listen to the words that have been exchanged. China stakes claim. Immediately the MEA and even the army chief come out and they rebuke China. Listen to this, viewers.
首先，你提到的领土属于中国领土，中方在自己的领土上开展基础设施建设无可非议。
Shaksgam Valley is Indian territory. We have never recognized the so-called China-Pakistan boundary agreement that happened in 1963. We have consistently maintained that the agreement is illegal and invalid. We do not recognize the so-called China-Pakistan economic corridor either, which passes through Indian territory.
As Shaksgam Valley is concerned, India considers 1963 agreement between Pakistan and China as illegal. Therefore, any activity in Shaksgam Valley is concerned, we do not approve of it. And in this terms, MEA has already issued the statement.
Viewers, you heard the army chief. He's drawn a clear red line warning that any Chinese activity in Shaksgam is illegal. The MEA has reiterated that Shaksgam belongs to India. The Shaksgam Valley, a strategically sensitive region north of Siachen, and I'm going to show it to you on a map, viewers, was illegally ceded by Pakistan to China in 1963. It was not for China to take, and it was not certainly for Pakistan to cede. It's a deal that India has never recognized because it says that it is an international land grab that is illegal. Shaksgam Valley is Indian territory. The Chinese reject the Indian claim on Shaksgam Valley, just like it rejects the Indian claim on Arunachal or other parts, viewers, of this country. India doesn't recognize the India-Pakistan 63 deal. How can it, viewers? Don't recognize the CPC. It passes via Indian territory. But China brazens it out, saying that it is building infrastructure on its own territory. For those who demand details, here's a breakdown of the Shaksgam tussle. It lies north of Siachen Glacier, and you can see that, viewers, that's the glacier there. And east of the Gilgit-Baltistan, making it strategically sensitive. The Shaksgam Valley was ceded by Pakistan to China in 1963, a move India considers illegal. It's part of the former princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. Its location strengthens China-Pakistan connectivity close to Karakoram Pass in China's Xinjiang region. It's a problem. Proximity to
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. We begin with the crisis in Iran. The numbers are staggering. According to one report, 12,000 people are dead. Some people have finally been able to call their friends outside the country and their accounts are chilling. Meanwhile, the US is making military moves. Donald Trump is considering options. Will he attack Iran? He's fired his favorite weapon already, a 25% tariff on countries that do business with Iran. We'll tell you how India could be caught in the crossfire. Also a report on Elon Musk's Starlink, how it is bypassing regimes, disabling internet bans and influencing conflicts. Closer home, tensions are rising. A territorial flashpoint between India and China has flared up again, plus a report on what ISRO's failed mission means. Why the government has said no to 10-minute delivery. Why Australia has put Indian students in the high-risk category for visas, what Apple's partnership with Google's Gemini says about their AI chops, and why a morbid app is going viral in China. It is called Are You Dead? All this and more coming up. The headlines first. India warns Pakistan over drone sightings, asks Islamabad to control these cross-border incursions. For the last few days, drones have been spotted over Jammu and Kashmir daily. India raised this issue with Pakistan during talks between the Director Generals of Military Operations. The Army Chief says India is well prepared to deal with any future misadventure. Bangladesh summons the ambassador of Myanmar after gun battles in the neighbouring country spilled over the border. A Bangladeshi girl was injured in the clashes this month. There has been heavy fighting in Myanmar's Rakhine state. The violence has affected many villages in Bangladesh's Cox's Bazar district. South Korean prosecutors demand the death penalty for former President Yoon Suk Yeol. Yoon triggered a crisis in December 2024 when he declared the martial law. But his attempt failed and he was taken into custody last January. The former president is on trial for insurrection and abuse of power. Uganda orders an internet blackout just days before election as the president looks to extend his 40-year rule. Uganda shut down the internet during the last election as well in 2021. That vote was marred by allegations of rigging and state violence against the opposition. And Donald Trump will attend the World Economic Forum in Davos next week. His last appearance at the summit was 6 years ago during his first term in office. Last year, the US president addressed the forum in Switzerland virtually. The organizers say this year, Trump will lead the largest US delegation ever.